In my last video I showed how to make a large Kumiko panel out of plywood. Since then I've finished making 2 more, and in this video I'll make 4 smaller panels to connect them together, and I'll then install all the panels in our backyard to make a screen. The 3 main panels are finished, so now I'll get started on the smaller ones. These are a lot easier to make than the Kumiko ones, and they'll break up the sequence of the Kumiko and add contrast to the finished screen. I'm making them out of form ply again and starting by cutting them down into strips. Because form ply is normally used for forming concrete, it stands up pretty well to outdoor conditions and any moisture, and I've also given the screens plenty of coated decking oil, which should help too. Just like in my last video, I'm moving the table saw around to give me more room at either side of the saw, and that's for cutting the joints on the longer strips. I'm using half lap joints again, and to cut those I'm installing a dado set, but if you haven't got one of those you could also do this on the router table. I'm starting on the shorter strips, that will be the horizontals. I'm making 2 cuts either end for a border, leaving a small piece of waste that will be cut off later on. Now I just need to make a cut in the centre, and to help me do that I'll clamp a stop to the fence. I actually made all these horizontal pieces too long, so I had to remake them. All the panels will have a frame around them before they get installed, and I made these pieces to the outside dimensions of the frame rather than the inside, but it didn't take too long to remake them. Now onto the longer vertical pieces, and these need 4 joints on each end. And the last 2 joints I need to make are a third of the way in from either end. I'm nearly there with the strips. I just need to make some short connecting pieces and then I can start putting them all together. After sanding them, I coated all the plywood edges with plenty of decking oil. I did that using a brush, as spraying them would have wasted too much oil, and also I reckon you can flood more oil on using a brush anyway. Now I need to fill in the centre of the panel with a piece of form ply. This panel is where the vertical gardens will be attached later on. To fix the panel, I'm using pocket holes, which is fast, easy and perfect for this. The edges won't be seen, so I used some paint to seal them, but I could have also used some of the decking oil. After putting them together, I flooded some oil into the pocket holes to give the exposed plywood some protection. That's the panels finished. Next I'll make the frames to go around them. The sides of the frames will be angled so the screen can be installed around this water tank. I worked out all of the angles for each frame, and because there were a few obstacles to tackle, all the frames ended up being different. I'm making the frames from treated pine, and after cutting all of the pieces to length, I angled the blade over on my table saw to cut all of those side pieces. Next I planed off the ridges on the front face of all the pieces just to tidy it up and make it look better. I'm undercoating them with some old paint just to use it up, and then I finished them with the new paint that I bought for the project, and the colour of that is ironstone. That's all the frame pieces finished, but before I put them together, I decided while I had the paint out, I'd paint and chamfer all the posts as well. To fix the frame to the panel, I'm pre-drilling and screwing them in a position where they can go into the end of one of the strips. I use 45mm screws to fix into the end of the strips and 65mm screws to fix the end pieces of the frame into the sides. These panels did have a bit of flex in them, but the frames have really stiffened them up and now they're nice and flat too. I painted the back of the Kumiko panels with some of that old paint just to give it more protection, and I also sealed all the edges as well. It really has been a lot of work, but now they're finally ready to install. I'm fixing the first panel directly to the side of the granny flat, but then I'll install a post in between the rest of them. To fix the posts, I'm using stirrups and anchoring those down with Tapcon screws. The next post is a bit different to the rest of them. It falls on an unconcreted patch, so I have a different type of stirrup for that, and I'll concrete that in later on. To make the screen more rigid, I made a brace from 1-inch galvanised box section and I welded a simple bracket onto each end. It's really starting to come together, and now I'll start fixing the felt pockets for the vertical planters. I used 2 pieces for each panel, and on the bottom one I had to cut off one of the pockets to make it fit. That's my work just about done. Now I can sit back and I can watch Kath do her bit. I reckon the vertical gardens are looking great, but I've still got a few finishing touches to do. I need to concrete in that stirrup, and there's a few bits of painting to do here and there. I decided it was time to freshen up the granny flat, and I also painted the path too. We'll have to see how well the gardens do and what grows well and what doesn't. But anyway, we're really happy with our new screen. Hopefully you like it too. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.